So your colour is red,
Yes.
and mine is gold. Why do I need to try to be red and you try to be gold? Why not just be the best version of who we are and let everything else help us to become more of that?
How about this? I have found also in my personal journey that there are times in our life where we're not comfortable being ourselves, and we question, we want to be accepted, we want to be something else, we want to be somebody else.
That usually comes from the outside because we're trying to fit in.
There you go.
Yep.
Listen to that.
Hello and welcome to Urban Dukun Podcast. My name is Mark Wentworth and my special guest today is Carmen.
Hello.
Carmen, tell me, what is colour psychodynamics in one sentence?
Halo teman-teman Urban Dukun. Hari ini saya ada di sini bersama Mark Wentworth, Global Colour Ambassador and founder of Colour for Life, penemu dari sebuah modalitas namanya Colour PsychoDynamics. So, Colour PsychoDynamics adalah sebuah sistem yang ditemukan oleh beliau di depan saya ini untuk menjadi diri terbaik kita semua. Jadi menurut sistem ini kita semua punya satu warna yang dominan dan beberapa warna pendukung sehingga menjadikan kita sebagai manusia yang utuh, unik, dan tercipta dari sesuatu yang tidak kekurangan satu apapun. Colour PsychoDynamics ini tujuannya jelas, yaitu membuat kita lebih mengenal diri kita dan membuat kita juga bisa menjadi manusia versi diri kita yang otentik dan jadi versi diri kita yang terbaik. So, yes, I have answer your question in Bahasa Indonesia, Mark. How do you think I do?
Thank you very much. Yes, it was very good.
Yes. So, hari ini kita akan banyak ngobrol dengan Mark. This is Mark's first time to Indonesia in collaboration with us, Urban Dukun. Clap, 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 clap.
First but not last.
Definitely not last.
Definitely not last.
So, how do you find Indonesia so far?
I love it. There's a familiarity which I don't yet understand.
There is a familiarity that you don't yet understand. That is a very interesting one.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced something like that before? That familiarity?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to probably the closest was when I went to Portugal for the very first time.
Wow.
Is when I stepped off the plane, it was like, oh, I've come home, even though I'm not Portuguese. So there was a familiarity which reminds me of that experience.
That is so nice. That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
So heartwarming. Senang banget ya teman-teman. Ternyata Mark emang senang banget ada di Indonesia. Well, let me just give you the background of the story. Saya bertemu dengan Colour PsychoDynamics ini secara tidak sengaja dari seorang teman yang merekomendasikan kursusnya Mark yang lain. Gitu, yaitu Goddess Course. Dari setelah Goddess Course, terus saya mulai belajar lebih dalam tentang diri saya, tentang archetype diri saya. Lalu saya mulai belajar tentang bagaimana jiwa saya hadir di dunia ini melalui kelas Mark yang namanya Colour PsychoDynamics. Berujung dengan saya menjadi seorang profiler dan sekarang saya sedang dalam perjalanan menjadi practitioner. Saya adalah profiler pertama di Indonesia dan saya juga akan menjadi practitioner pertama di Indonesia. Dan saya pertama kali membawa Colour PsychoDynamics ke Indonesia melalui wadah Urban Dukun. Urban Dukun itu adalah tempat yang saya ciptakan untuk membuat sebuah space yang nyaman, aman sehingga healing bisa terjadi. Mark, I was just telling the audience about my experience stumbling upon Colour PsychoDynamics.
Yeah.
And that was 3 years ago.
It was, yes. And but the interesting thing is you say stumbling upon, and I tend to think that colour chooses us as much as we choose it. I would say it's more probably 70-30. Colour chooses us.
The colour chooses us.
Yes, that says, I want to work with you.
Oh, that I believe, yes.
Yes.
Yes. I wouldn't say that. No, I think I'm going to revise what I said. I did not believe, but I could say that I live that's the way how I live.
Mhm.
Like it pulled me in.
Yep. And that's how I say colour always does. That's what I've noticed when people really work with it from the heart. It tends to be a calling. It tends to be colour is the one that chooses. Sometimes you start and you just say, I want to know more. I want to experience more.
Yes, indeed, the calling.
Yep.
I think you remember when I first learned about color, Urban Dukun was in embryo that I had here in my brain.
Yeah.
And I had here. I felt the calling, but I did not know how to make it into real life.
Yep.
I did not know how it would look like. I did not know how it would shape.
Yeah.
I just knew it has to happen.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the same with colour psychodynamics, because it started 36 years ago, but a little bit before that, probably when I was about 4 years old, I remember seeing my very first rainbow, but I'm sure I've probably seen many before then. But this one specific moment, it was a Sunday morning. I went to visit my grandmother, so an ordinary Sunday morning.
Yes.
And I walked into our house, and on the ceiling was this amazing rainbow. And there was something about, I can still remember it so clearly, still today. And it was though it was full of life, full of energy, and importantly, full of stories. But of course, when you're 4 years old, you don't realize this is going to be my future life's work. And it was only maybe 20 years later, no, maybe it was 16, 17 years later, that I actually came into being.
That you found working with colors.
Yeah, because first of all, I trained for a short period of time as a makeup artist in TV and film. Which was great, but not it. Then I met my teacher, who was, and as soon as she started talking to me about colour in the way that I learned, it was like suddenly it all made sense. And I didn't know how it was going to be, but I just knew that was it. I could never do anything else.
You just have to work with colors.
Yep. And I've learned other modalities as well, but always, how does this integrate and help me understand colour more?
When you met that teacher and you learned from her, right?
Yeah.
It's not color psychodynamic as we know now.
No, she taught me the formula, because as you know, kind of everyone has a life path colour.
Yes.
And so that's what I learned. Kind of the basic formulas of how everyone has a colour and learning that formula. But then when I was doing the training, I was receiving I think my lowest mark in my homework was maybe about 80%. Oh. It was always ranging, probably 78% and between 78% and 95%.
Okay.
Never experienced that in my educational learning at all until that moment. And some of the stuff that I was doing, she was saying, but how do you know this? Where is this coming from? And she would say to me, she said, I'm learning stuff from you. And she said, the things you're writing about, that doesn't come until much later.
Okay.
So it was like she woke something up that was already there.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here. When you said she woke something up that is already there, and that's how I felt working with colors, working with souls, and working the journey, the frequency vibration of the soul. It's that it's already there. Nothing. It wasn't created, but it's rediscovered. Like we rediscovered ourselves.
Yep.
And there are triggers in life to just poke and nudge, sometimes not so gently, on that particular part to wake up. Was it?
Yes, it's like kind of, think of when you plant a seed, that within the seed is already the blueprint of the flower or the tree that it's going to become. And to me...
Yeah, like the acorn.
The acorn.
Yeah.
Within the acorn is already the pattern of the oak tree.
As if a seed is actually a full tree on its own, but
Yes.
it's still in a different form
Yep.
than when it's
Yep. And then when you
grown.
plant it, then it doesn't immediately become fully grown.
right.
And to me, that's the same thing. We come with this blueprint of who we were born to be.
Okay.
And what I've understood through developing colour psychodynamics is that we come with this blueprint. And nowadays, we're kind of told you can be anything you want to be. But I actually kind of think the question should be, are you becoming who you were born to be? Which is much more focused and then much more true to who you are.
Okay, I got the impression that when we believe that we can be whoever, but that belief stems from seeing people outside of us
Yeah.
and identifying us to that person, which might not be the right thing for us.
Now, we can use people around us to inspire us.
Okay.
And maybe it's part of, maybe in their story, they took a risk to be themselves. So we can be inspired from that perspective. But it's always from the point of view, am I becoming myself? And
Okay.
so,
Yeah, am I becoming myself? Is the key is we will be most successful when we become ourselves, and that person that we admire or we want to become has probably done that to themselves.
Yep. So it's that sense of, if you're always asking, am I becoming myself? And because sometimes people will say, but how do I know when I'm becoming myself? And it's because you start to feel as if you are in your element. For example, a fish on the land is not in its element.
I was gonna die. Yeah, sooner or later.
A fish in the water is in its element.
Right. And a fish don't fly.
And also, well, apart from flying fish.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. But, so it's the same thing. But the fish doesn't know it's in its element. It just carries on doing and being its natural self. And that's what it is. Sometimes we question, because we do it so natural, that we kind of tend to dismiss what is natural to who we are. And it's through colour psychodynamics and knowing your profile that it really helps you to become your true self. It's almost like so your colour is red,
Yes.
and mine is gold. Why do I need to try to be red and you try to be gold? Why not just be the best version of who we are and let everything else help us to become more of that?
How about this? I have found also in my personal journey that there are times in our life where we're not comfortable being ourselves, and we question, we want to be accepted, we want to be something else, we want to be somebody else.
That usually comes from the outside, because we're trying to fit in.
There you go.
Yep.
Listen to that.
We're trying to fit in, it becomes from maybe family expectations, maybe peer pressure. Maybe society says, as a young person, this is how you're supposed to be. And as humans, we have a natural sense of, we are by nature community, and we want to belong.
We do.
So sometimes we will sacrifice ourselves in order to belong. But the only person who ultimately suffers is us.
Yes.
And maybe other people too, because then we're not really happy.
Yes. There is always going to be this nudge.
But
right?
ultimately, we're the ones who suffer.
I do, in my experience, before learning colour psychodynamics, see that the first place the person has to start on their healing journey is to return to themselves.
Yep.
And once the more they know themselves, then the process can begin.
Yep.
The more they accept themselves,
Yep.
then the process can begin. And knowing colour psychodynamic telling people about their life path.
Yeah.
So for the viewers, kalau mau tahu tentang life path kalian, silahkan datang ke website Urban Dukun www.urbandukun.id atau ke Instagram kami Urban Dukun. Di situ ada post tentang caranya cara menghitung life path color kalian dan apa artinya secara singkat. Or you can also go to Mark's website Color for Life and look what color am I? Is it?
Yeah. Now, what color are you?
What color are you?
Yeah.
Nah, ada di situ. Okay.
But I just want to come back. When we're talking about the thing about becoming who you are naturally, the clues are very often when we're younger, when we're in childhood.
Yeah.
Because when we're in childhood, when we're children act very spontaneously.
Right.
And it's the things we do so naturally as children are very often some of the clues of who we were born to be. So like a personal example would be when I was at school, maybe, I don't know, we call it middle school. So comprehensive school. So the last, before you leave, between 12 and 16.
Yeah, that's middle school and high school here.
Yep, okay, high school. So a lot of my teachers would say, Mark would do so much better if he didn't have such an overactive imagination. So they put that as a negative.
I see.
Whereas, and they didn't, and actually, it's what's helped me do my work.
Oh, yes. Yes, active imagination is a big part of color psychodynamics.
Yeah. And also that having that imagination, kind of part of color psychodynamics is using film, helping people understand themselves through film recommendations as well. So I would love to go back and say to my teachers, you said you saw this as a negative, but actually, look how it's helped me in my career.
Yeah, what do you think life does that to you?
Well, because it was so natural to me.
By negating what your natural thing is.
Yeah. However, to me, there's always clues. So, okay.
I see.
So, where I was born was in Norwich, on the east coast of the UK. So, overactive imagination. But only maybe a couple of years ago did I discover that Norwich is known as the city of stories. So
that interesting?
The boy with the overactive imagination was born in the city of stories.
Teman-teman, kalau nggak punya imajinasi yang luas ya, dengerin cerita itu stories requires imagination.
Yes.
So you were born in the right place.
And that's the thing, that part of the color psychodynamics, as you know, it's about helping you to almost like we're born in a fated destiny.
This is very interesting. This is the next point that I would like to go into.
Okay.
Like, what is fate?
Yep.
And the difference between
fate and destiny. Okay. Fate, let's say fate is something you can't change. Fate would be your date of birth.
Yes.
Yep. The place you were born.
Yes.
And the family you were born into.
True.
That's your fate. And the time and the period in history that you're born into.
That's fate.
That's fate. You can't change that.
No, you can't change that.
Okay. So we're born into that. And it's those kind of experiences that we have that then either keep us stuck and maybe repeating the same maybe family patterns. But destiny is what's written into our color-coded blueprint. It says, okay, this is who I am. This is the family I was born into.
Yes.
And these are all the experiences I had. But there's always our life path color.
Yes.
Is the bit that says, yes, you were this, but you are also this. Which actually sometimes goes to explain why you can be born into a family and you look around and you think, do I really belong to this family? Was I switched at birth? Am I kind of did I get switched in the hospital or something like that? Because you don't feel as though you belong.
From what you were saying, I get the impression as if that faith is the one that gives us the most learning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And color psychodynamics start with knowing your life path color, and that is based on your date of birth.
Yes, which you can't change. So that's part of your fate.
That's part of the fate.
Yep.
And part of the blueprint, the destiny part, will be the other colors that is supporting your life.
Yeah. But equally, your destiny is also your life path color. Because when we talk about life, whenever we think about life, we always imagine it as almost like as a pathway.
Right.
We always talk about, I'm moving through life. We have this sense of my path in life. What is my career path? What is my next move? And it's always in the sense of we're moving sort of we talk about timelines.
Yes, we do.
And so it's always on this thread of a pathway.
Yeah.
To me, that's why life paths work. Mm-hmm. That's why, because we always have this pathway through life. And that, our color, is what pulls us through life. It's a constant.
I see.
It's like having a best friend that knows absolutely everything about you and still stands by your side.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Whatever happens.
This is a really beautiful thing, dear friends, to understand that our life path is always with us all the time. We are never alone, and it's there to help us all the time. That's faith. That's a beautiful faith, by the way.
Yeah. Because kind of part of part of color psychodynamics is each color has its own archetype.
Yeah.
And an archetype is a blueprint. It's a symbol. And it's a pattern of behavior, which then says, like, your color is red. Yeah. So you can say, okay, you're red, but what does that mean? And then to give you an archetype, and the archetype of red is the pioneer. Yes. With a little bit of rebelliousness thrown in for good measure. But then that's fine. But then what we also do in color psychodynamics is we then personify it. It gives it shape and form. And so I would say to you, okay, if you were to imagine a pioneer, what kind of person would you imagine? And again, this is where imagination comes in. Because as a red person, you might imagine someone, and someone else who's also red would someone completely different.
Like, if they can imagine a person that they know is a pioneer, it doesn't matter who that person is, but the behavior, the sense of being a person that starts something, that breaks into boundaries, that create differences, and have the bravery to do so, to be different. Yeah.
So it's always, and then whoever you imagine, where it becomes, where I said to you, it's like you're never alone, as in you never walk this path alone, is, I don't know. So for example, when you imagine the pioneer for the first time, if you don't mind me asking, who comes to mind? Who was it who came to mind? Who was your red pioneer?
Doesn't have a name, but there's always this form that doesn't have a name.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. A male figure.
Yep.
He likes to wear masks, like those big masks.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and he has different masks.
Yeah. So from that perspective, imagine you're going into a very challenging situation. So then I would ask you to say, okay, so imagine that you are stepping into his shoes and you're going into this challenging situation either as him or he's walking alongside with you. then like that, you know that you are always supported.
So in our imagination, we can, how do you say, like personify it?
Yep. Personify means to give it a shape and a form.
A shape, a form, and
as a
figure.
person.
Yes, so so I could relate better with my life path instead of just red color.
Yeah.
But there's archetype. An archetype is this personified sets of behavior.
Yeah. Because an archetype is a symbol. So it will mean,
so this person that I just imagined right now is the symbol of my red.
Yes.
Okay. So it will be different than other.
Yeah. And the reason where we tap into that is, go back to what I said in childhood. Look at all the films and the things we have for children. Mm-hmm. We have all these cartoons where, I don't know, animals speak. We have inanimate objects that have personality and things like that. And we never question it as children.
No. Yeah.
And it's always, we never kind of think, oh, this is not real.
True.
And so one of the things in Colour PsychoDynamics is we reconnect with that magical child. Because as we grow up, sometimes we really kind of lose that connection, that being spontaneous and being able to believe that anything is possible.
Anything is possible as the person that you ought to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The person you're born to be.
Yeah. But you know, that thing is like anything is possible. All you have to do is believe.
Yes.
If you want to do something, you know you can do it.
Well, that's the first thing what the red always believe is we can.
Yeah.
We can. And there is a way.
Yeah.
When we get that sense of we can, there is a way.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the way has not showed itself, it will.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, talking about childhood, some of the work that I have done over the years is work with children who have been bullied. You know, because it's kind of, I don't know if it's here in Indonesia as well, but certainly in kind of in the UK and Western Europe, or Northern Europe, it happens a lot. So working with children who've had that experience, they feel like almost like they're almost like victims, and there's kind of, they lose their sense of spontaneity, they lose their joy. But by working with them and saying, okay, this is who you are, this is your color, and let's find an ally through the archetypes. Maybe put it in different terms. Instead of archetypes, we talk about ally. What kind of person do you imagine? And maybe they imagine a superhero. Think of, I talk about with children, instead of archetypes, I talk them about as superheroes.
Yes.
Then it's like, okay, so you know you're going into this scary situation where maybe you've not got to stand up or do something, but you're not doing it on your own.
So Colour PsychoDynamics also plays a great part when you do what we call an inner child healing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice.
But also for children.
For children.
Yes.
Or when they are still a child.
Yep.
Not just child within, but also during their... So that's really great. That's really, really nice.
Yeah. Because in the sense, and also when, like, I've worked in schools in helping children by helping them understand their color, because you get to do a little bit of math as well, because you're doing all the calculations.
That's right. Simple math. Math is not my forte, but I can do the simple math of Colour PsychoDynamics. Don't worry for those of you whose math is not your forte.
Yep. And then from that, once they know that, then they understand. It's incredible when you see a group of children and you go, oh, who's red? And they go, yes, I am. And then you have all the red group together, and then maybe you have all the blues together, and you have all the colors, and they go, that's why you did that. Oh, I thought you were doing this. And then it becomes understanding of how the colors are different to each other.
And children are okay with difference. And the earliest that they understand the uniqueness of being themselves and understanding how others have a different have different personality and they're okay with it.
And it's also helpful for teachers as well, because what teachers have always said, it makes so much sense now. Now I understand why he or she does that. It's because that colour.
Going back to your story a bit
Yes.
about teacher,
Yep.
your teacher said you have an overactive imagination, right?
Yep.
So does that have anything to do with your color?
Well, yeah, because kind of my colour is gold, which is, so it's about wisdom. So it's it's always the sense of curiosity and wanting to pass knowledge on. But also one of my other strong colours in my profile is indigo, which is the transformer, and also part of the blue is the storyteller.
I see that, the storyteller.
So if you put all of that together, so one of my other things, and to me that's why I absolutely love film as well, because it's telling stories.
Okay, now I see. Yeah.
And that's what I've done. So when I was about 9 or 10, I sat down and I wrote a film script.
At 10 years old, the
Yep.
storyteller has revealed
And I
itself.
literally sat down and wrote a film script, and I knew exactly how to describe how they came onto set direction, all the director notes.
Oh, nice.
And I was more frustrated that no one believed that I just knew how to do it.
So that ability is already within you.
Yep.
Now I understand. I have a strong indigo, and then I so relate with
Yep.
having something coming out of nothing.
Yep. And they said, but how did you know how? And I said, I just did. And they said, who told you? Where did you copy it from? And it's like, I didn't. I just know. And that's part of being gold as well. I just know.
You just know.
Yes.
Imagine having an 8-year-old telling you, I just know.
Yeah. I would say kind of if you work out and your kind of son or daughter is gold, just know they have this ability to look through you.
Yes.
There's a wisdom that they have.
Yes.
You know that term, old head on young shoulders?
Yes.
That's true of gold.
Yes. I am parenting a gold. I can understand from the parent point of view of how dealing with a gold child is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
But you can also have so much fun with it as well.
Yes. Oh yeah. They give me. Yeah. It's so much. It made my life so much easier understanding their color and understanding this is natural.
Yep.
And then being able to spot right away where there is something that came from outside of them, like outside influence.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to me is like, as a parent, if you know your child's color, you can then help almost like kind of navigate and shape that so their natural behavior is not interpreted as something or misunderstood as something negative.
Yes.
It's almost like, you can be born with a natural talent, but actually it's then actually having someone help guide you and shape you that makes you a master. So someone who has a natural musical ability, but they need the teaching and the guiding how to channel that. And these archetypes are fully formed.
They came fully formed.
Yep.
But do they realize that they're
Nope.
8-year-old?
No, they don't know they're 8 years old.
That
So-
answers all my questions about my kids.
And I know your daughter is Violet, which is
The sovereign.
Yeah, which is the sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
So she's born as a sovereign, as a fully formed queen,
Yes.
and saying, well, okay, I'm not going to do this. You're going to do this for me because I have staff. This is what it is. You expect me to do this? So for someone else, that can be misinterpreted as being bossy, controlling, outspoken, and so therefore it can be squashed. So that natural ability then becomes something interpreted as something negative.
So isn't it interesting that if a family knows each of the family members' colors, the parents can actually help the children grow up to be the best version of themselves?
Yep, absolutely. And to me, that's one of my biggest passions about color psychodynamics is helping young people.
Mm.
And probably like helping parents as well, because being a parent is not easy.
No.
Children never come with an instruction manual.
No.
And you can have 2 children and each one will be completely different.
Yeah.
And they have different needs and different ways of being. And so what I found is if as a parent you actually know each child's color, then you understand who they are. You can understand their nature. So then it helps you understand that maybe your color is different to their color, so they're going to react and respond differently to the same situation. And also each color has its own language pattern.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's tell the audience more about each color's language pattern, because I think that's very important.
So like, for example, if you are red, so your thing is about, I want to do it now. So if you want your children to do something, it's like, I don't want you to do it tomorrow or not in 20 minutes. I want you to do it now.
Yes.
Now, if they are, as I know, they're golden violet.
Gold, violet, and red.
Gold, violet, and red. Okay, red probably will understand that. The violet will say, really? I think you should do this first. And the gold will look at you in such a way that makes you feel so guilty that you'll think, well, maybe we'll do this next week. And so it's understanding. So kind of red wants everything now. Orange is a little bit indecisive. So it's that sense of, okay, let's see how we can do this. Yellow is...
on the how. Yeah,
and the
orange
how.
is more on the how.
Yeah. And the yellow is like, well, this is the plan. Because they like strategy.
Yes.
So if you have a yellow child, it's always giving them things plenty to do which stimulate their mind. Whereas with kind of red, it's like having a child and always keeping them physically occupied. So they're always doing. If you have a green child, it's always making sure they have plenty of space around them and you don't actually make their environment really busy because they don't like that busyness.
No, they like the calm.
They like the calm.
Yeah, they like the calm, and they like to have their own space.
Yes.
It's very important to have their own space.
And for blues, if you have a blue child, it's paying attention to the noise in the room because they're incredibly sensitive to sound.
Yes, blue is incredible. Yeah, the storyteller.
So it's paying attention to the sound. Because maybe for you, you've got a radio on and just noticing what happens for your child, certainly if they can't commute, watch what happens to the sound. And then if you have an indigo child, don't worry if they're just very silent and they're almost like because they're in their own little world. I remember talking to a mum who had an indigo son and she was really worried because she's saying, but my son's not interacting with the group. She said, he's just very much an outsider. And I said, I bet if you actually ask him, he'll know exactly everything that's happening and what's going on.
So an indigo child will process it within themselves?
Yep. They are, as an adult, they are the great people watchers. They're the ones who sit in the coffee shops watching what everyone else is doing. Yes. They don't say very much, but they always know. Yeah. They're my favourite people to take to parties because they always know who's doing what with who.
Yes.
You know? Then if you've got a violet child, you know, it's almost recognizing that they have that sovereign energy. So, you know, when they say no, or they have this sense of, could you get me this? Could you get me this? It's not that being bossy. It's just that you need to acknowledge that they have this certain quality and ability to lead.
Yeah, they are natural leaders.
They are natural leaders.
Natural born leaders.
Natural born leaders.
I do recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the rose, they have a similar quality of red, so they always need to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
They always need to be physically busy, but also sometimes they care too much because they're very loving,
Yes.
but sometimes to the detriment.
Yeah.
And then gold, again, is almost like you've got this very wise child who will always be curious and allow them to be curious. And always kind of allow that bit of, they always want sort of books and knowledge. They always want everything. They want to understand and allow that to be so.
They seek to understand,
Yes.
and they do a lot of research on themselves to understand, think the way into the depth that they want to understand.
And
yes.
equally, you know, kind of maybe at a different time, we can talk about some of the challenges. So like kind of all quickly. So one of the things that with gold is sometimes a child can be too perfectionist. They're going to be too self-critical. And the rose, they can feel as though on the outside. They don't feel as though they quite belong. And a violet can be too controlling in a group.
Yep.
And indigo, like I said, they can be too kind of like too disconnected in a way. So it's helping them to stay with that indigo specialness, but equally at the same time still be connected.
Right.
You know, and with the blues, it's kind of sometimes blue lose their voice. So it's helping them to find their voice.
Find their true voice.
Their
the
true
one
voice.
That,
Yep.
Yeah.
And
they are very good with words.
Yes. And then with the greens, it's helping them to actually know that, you know, because green is very much from the heart. So they're very compassionate as well, similar to rose.
Yes.
So again, it's helping them to know their space, knowing that they need space. So if you have other children and you put them all together, it's going to stress the green one out.
Yes, indeed.
It's like, nope, I need space.
Green would always need their own space. And when we recognize that, we actually encourage the child to be themselves.
Yeah, and then with yellow, sometimes they can be too critical of themselves.
That's a little bit similar with the
Similar to gold.
The gold.
Yeah, they can be very, very self-critical. So they kind of put themselves under huge amounts of pressure. So it's helping them to actually know it's okay, you can let go. And then with the kind of the orange is they can feel too overwhelmed, similar to green with other people. And because orange, when they feel too because they're very sensitive, so very often they turn into the comedian, like the Joker.
Yeah. The orange can be very funny.
Yeah. And it's a gift, but sometimes it's a barrier between them and people. If they feel too sensitive, they become the Joker.
Okay, so is that a coping mechanism?
It can be.
It can be a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Just a natural coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the red, they do until they exhaust themselves. Reds have two states of being, all or nothing. There's no in between. There's no grey area. So if you allow that and aware of the other challenges as well, then you help to keep your children in balance. And you also know the dynamics between all of them.
Yeah. There's a different way where you can speak to a red, and the red will understand you. When you tell your red child what to do, it's easier for us.
Yep.
It's easier for us. So parents, find out your color and find out your children's color, and also the rest of your family is going to help your relationship.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why I always say, if you want to change your life, very easy, add a little color to your life.
Add a little color to your life. This is such a great session, finding out more about ourselves and how it expands to the closest and dearest to us, our family.
Yep.
I believe this session could help lots of people who are watching. The healing starts with you. Healing always starts with two things. In my personal experience and helping clients, healing starts with knowing who you are, and then healing starts with creating a safe space. So if you can do those things, help yourself, help your family to know who they are naturally, and create that space where you can grow and love together and blossom together. That's the best thing in life. Last words for you, Mark.
Yep. So it's that sense of if you know who you are, then you live in balance and you live in harmony, and you can know your family, you can know your colleagues through teams, because you can apply it to teams as well. So it's very much the sense of just know yourself through colour. And that becomes, and just say, I am enough.
Because we are.
Because you're always enough.
We are always
Enough.
Thank you very much, dear Urban Dukun friends, for staying with us and finishing this session with that big quote. We are always enough. We'll see you another session. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.